One of the biggest things I would say is that the way we're being taught to understand literature in school now is completely unhelpful and almost entirely wrong. So the way we think about literature and books and all these things in school is, first of all, we think about it largely as a kind of escapist thing. You'll hear that a lot. Oh, it's this place where you just go to have fun and dream, and it's totally detached from reality, and it's about science fiction, fantasy, all this kind of stuff. That's completely inaccurate. Literature evolved during incredibly difficult times in human history when we just didn't have the resources to hang out and just have fun all the time. And so it has these incredibly powerful, useful psychological functions, which are not just kind of necessary for us as individuals, but for us as societies. So the first thing that, that the usefulness of literature was kind of the first big thing. The second thing is we're just taught to read literature all wrong. We're basically taught to read literature the way the monks in the Middle Ages read the Bible, which is to say we're taught to interpret it for themes and representations. And the technical term for this is semiotics. It's the application of logic to language. And it's basically all we do. It's kind of mainstreamed by this guy, I.A. Richards at Cambridge in the 1920s and 1930s. It becomes the basis of all the way that we study literature now. And that's not how literature works at all. Anyone who's been in a class knows that when you sit up and read a book on your own, you're not analyzing it for its themes and what it means. You're plugging into the characters, you're plugging into the world and the story, you're feeling suspense, you're feeling empathy, you're feeling all these kinds of emotional things. And perhaps most importantly, your imagination is just popping. It's not a logic exercise in which you're analyzing the words. In fact, a lot of times when you're reading, you're not even conscious of the words at all. You're seeing places and people and events in your head. So I was just like, look, whatever we're doing in school, even if it is worthwhile in some way, it's not capturing most of what's actually special about literature. And so what my work does is basically go back to how our brains actually process literature, which is not really related at all to language, for technical reasons we can get into it all. Language and interpretation has almost nothing to do with it. Words has very little to do with literature. And also to kind of access the incredible power that literature has to make our lives better. To give us more courage, to give us more love, to heal us from trauma, to help us get over loneliness, to make us better scientists, to help us think in these powerful, creative, imaginative ways. And even as I talk about in later chapters of the book, to do apparently impossible things, like actually make our dreams come true. Because literature can stimulate this power of the brain known as counterfactual thinking, in which we reimagine the world and literally make the future as we see it, as opposed to what it was going to be otherwise. So that's the kind of big stuff, I guess.